she got mad and she would grab me right in the manhood. She had kicked me in the back down our concrete steps. I don't know what I was thinking.
Is this the face of an abused man or a husband who murdered his wife? This morning, we're talking about the testimony of Defendant Jordan Henning. By the way, his defense team is expected to rest soon. And the parents of Sudiksha Konanki now asking officials to declare her dead. This, as the person of interest in her disappearance, is in court today and asking to be released. Also this hour, we're spotlighting the 911 call made by the survivors of the Idaho student murders. A psychologist and a law enforcement expert are joining us live to talk about why perhaps they didn't call for help sooner. Plus, Robert Baker's marathon testimony is expected to finally come to an end today. So now we're wondering, will Monica Simontilli take the stand too? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you. Thanks for waking up with us here on Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We planned a great show for you, so let's get it started. Go ahead, grab that cup of coffee or tea or hot water with lemon, whatever you like in the morning. It's time for my opening statement. I don't recall RSVPing to a pity party. Seems to me Defendant Jordan Henning thought it would be a good idea to throw himself a pity party. If I were on that jury, I'd throw out my invitation. What a crybaby. Who were those tears really for? Were they actually for Ashley? Sergeant First Class Ashley, who outranked him, by the way, in the Army. And it seems from the evidence she also outranked him in terms of emotional intelligence as well. You know, my friends, we often say when we see domestic cases that we never know what really happens behind closed doors. But guess what? We do in this case. We see Jordan Henning behaving like a violent, menacing predator. He put his wife in fear of her life, and that's why she told their neighbor to call police. She needed help, and he was in deep trouble. You know, my favorite moment of the day was when the prosecutor crossed him on how he shot his wife because of her call to save herself and their children, and how he knew it was about to end his military career when the police showed up. And you know what? I'll take it a step further this morning. I think that his testimony and his tears were the same thing. Another foolish, self-serving attempt by Defendant Jordan Henning to try to save himself. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Mentioned that they did combine all the discovery into one case. They didn't give me two different separate discoveries for two different cases, which would be much more convenient considering the voluminous amount of discovery that they piled onto us.
The defendant can't try both cases at the same time.
Now in Arizona, we've got cult mom Lori Vallow-Daybell back in court ahead of her upcoming trial. It's going to start up today at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we will go there after we have a court-imposed delay. I was going to say we're going there live, but the judge put a little bit of a restriction on us, so we'll get you in there as soon as our cameras are allowed to show it. And in Massachusetts, we've got defendant Karen Reed back in court for a motions hearing. Court's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern. We will go there live together when it does. And in New Hampshire, we've got the state's case continuing in the bad blood shooting case for Jason Levesque. That's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern. Now we turn to our top story for you, a very emotional Defendant Jordan Henning taking the stand on Monday. He first started out with a tearful apology for shooting and killing his wife, Ashley. And then he explained that he grabbed his gun because he thought his military career would be over.
I destroyed lives that day, and the people I loved, and I can't bring that back, and I can't fix this situation, and I'm sorry, and I know that'll never be enough.
killed that young woman because of the hell you brought to that house in that 20 minutes. She called the police to save herself, her children, and neighbors. And that call was going to end your job in the military. And you killed her. And you wanted to make sure she was dead and went back and shot her again.
So, do you believe Jordan Henning? Clearly, you already know how I feel after watching my opening statement. Hit us up on social media. Let us know. I have two tremendous guests I want to bring in now. South Carolina solicitor in the 16th Judicial Circuit, Kevin Brackett, is with us, and criminal defense attorney and trial advocacy professor Don Malarsic with us as well. Good morning to you both. Boy, this is perfect. I've got a prosecutor and a defense attorney on the show, so let's dig in. The prosecutor really got to have the day on Monday, having the floor, much of the day devoted to that cross-examination. Was it enough to prove this was a murder and not extreme emotional disturbance, as the defense is saying it is? Kevin, your thoughts on what the state, or the Commonwealth, I should say, of Kentucky did?
I think that they've got a pretty strong case going into today, Julie. It really, this guy is basically asserting the defense that every abuser asserts. He's basically saying it's her fault. She made me do it, and you know, I don't think it's playing, and I think he's being exposed for the abusive person that he is. I mean, all of the evidence taken in total is really damning for him.
Kevin, thank you for that. Don Malarsic, I've been dying to know what you would do if this was your case. You know, they're going with extreme emotional disturbance. Curious how you think they're working through this case, if it's the right way to work through it. Anything you might do differently, Don?
You know, Joel, I think they're doing the best they can with what they have. And, you know, battered spouse, battered woman syndrome is a thing. It's been around. It's been legally recognized since the 90s. It is something that the mental health field believes is real, but it doesn't allow you to execute or commit a homicide, right? If you're abused on Friday and Saturday, you can't kill your spouse on Monday. He still has to show self-defense. And that's where I think the case really falls apart for the defense. We see, you know, Mr. Henning pursuing his wife. He has the gun. He has to show that he was in imminent fear of physical harm. And that's where I think the case really lacks the facts and lacks the real truth to get him a not guilty. But let's not forget, you know, this battered woman syndrome is a real thing. It helps explain why abused spouses don't leave relationships. It explains why they don't report things to the authorities. And I just don't know that we have that here. I think the defense is doing everything they can with the facts they have. But I agree with our prosecutor. I just don't know that in this case it's going to carry the day. Great points from you both. Don, thank you for that. I have a clip where Henning is on the stand saying that he believed he was in danger, and he's claiming that his wife grabbed him by the testicles. Let's take a look.
Did you think you were in danger?
I absolutely thought that.
Is there any doubt about the testicles and you being pulled by the testicles? Was there any doubt in your mind that had happened?
No.
I know she grabbed you by the testicles before. Was this worse, better? What was different about this?
The worst it's ever happened. I've never been drugged 10 feet by it. I just couldn't get her off of me. It just wouldn't let go.
Kevin, you know, when I was talking to my team this morning, we were all saying, boy, Ashley must be strong if that story is true. What did you think when he shared that story?
Yeah, I think he's just grasping at straws, Julie. I mean, it doesn't ring true for exactly the reason you just said. He's a grown man, but also all the attendant circumstances, the fact that the kids felt like the situation was dire enough that they needed to run for help because he was being so aggressive. She's pleading and trying to talk to him to try to talk him down. This is not the circumstances that he's trying to describe. I mean, he's trying to take his version of it and fit it in. And I agree completely that battered spouse is a valid defense, and there are women who are abused by men over a lengthy period of time and conditioned to be in a constant state of fear. But Jordan Henning is not one of those people based on all the facts and circumstances in this case. It's just not there for him. So it doesn't have the ring of truth, and I don't think he's going to prevail.
Great points, Kevin. Because I've had a couple people bring up the Marsha Thompson case, where in that case she truly was a victim of battered spouse syndrome, and we watched her trial play out. Yes, she was set free, but I mean, she is going through major intensive therapy now to get her life back in order. It's an awful thing, as you and Don both know, if someone is experiencing it. But as you said, Kevin, this doesn't seem to be that. Don, I wanted to ask you about the defense approach again with something. We got a hint at this in the opening statement from defense counsel. He said, at the end of the trial, we're going to ask you, members of the jury, to convict our client of something very serious, not murder, but something serious. And of course, I started thinking, okay, they probably wanted a plea to manslaughter. The state, I keep saying the state, the Commonwealth of Kentucky wouldn't do it. Don, what do you do if you have a client like this guy and maybe you want to resolve the case? I'm thinking maybe they did, and it seems that he does have issues. I don't know that battered spouse is his issue, but it seems like he's got some issues based on what he testified to. What would you do with him? What can you think of possibly doing with him instead of trial?
Well, you do want to try to resolve every case. And at some level, a trial is a failure on someone's part, right? It's a failure for the defense to adequately assess the case. It's a failure for the prosecution to do the same. So everyone works very, very hard to resolve the case. But if you can't resolve a murder case and you're not really sure that you have a perfect self-defense, then you do ask you for a lesser included offense, something like manslaughter. And what the defense is doing here is trying to show serious provocation. If they don't get an outright acquittal because of a clear self-defense claim, then the next best thing is something less than murder, and that is oftentimes manslaughter. So what the defense is trying to do is say that this person, their client, Mr. Henning, was acting under serious provocation brought on by the victim that caused him to act in a fit of rage as he did. It's not a perfect defense. He won't go home. He will be convicted of a very serious offense like manslaughter. He will likely serve prison time. But I think the defense is doing exactly what they need to do and trying to convince the jury that this wasn't something that was prior calculation and design. This wasn't a cold-blooded killing. It was in the heat of passion. And I think that's a valid, legitimate tactic, and they're doing everything they can to try to spare their client from a murder conviction.
Such great insight. Don Malarsic, Kevin Brackett, we're so thrilled to have you both on the program this morning. Stand by for more questions, please. We're going to hit a break. I want to let you know, my friends at home, we got a programming note. Court in the military wife murder trial is dark today, but resuming tomorrow morning. And just so you know, we haven't forgotten about the trial. We got a lot of other big hearings happening today, but we'll see it all playing out. On Wednesday, we'll talk about it then. Right now, we're going to hit our first break of the hour. Go refill your coffee. Here's what's coming up next.
911 location of your emergency. Something is happening. Something's happening in our house. We don't know what.
The chilling 911 call after 4 University of Idaho students were murdered, and the missing University of Pittsburgh students' parents want some answers. This, as the person of interest in the case heads to court today.
You feel that?
The NWSL is on ION.
It's game time. Showing off a little skill now.
The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long. Find ION wherever you watch.
ION, it's on.
Does Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was raped! We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage coming soon on Court TV.
Welcome back. The family of missing University of Pittsburgh student Sudiksha Konanki are now requesting Dominican police declare her dead. A police spokesman says that Konanki's family has sent a letter requesting a declaration of death. This comes as the search for the 20-year-old college student enters week number 2. She went missing the morning of March 6th, and new images of clothing believed to belong to Konanki were shared by CDN.com. The Dominican news outlet also reported that the missing student's sandals were discovered near a beach chair. Now, on the heels of the family's request, we're asking this morning, what is the likelihood that Sudiksha Konanki is alive? Let's bring in our fantastic investigators and see what they say about this. Back in the studio with me, Corey Pegues, and standing by remotely, private investigator Manuel Gomez. Good morning to you both. Corey, let me begin with you. Do you think there's any hope this young lady's alive?
Well, that's a tough one, but just for respect for the family, you want to hold out a little hope.
Sure.
It's probably more than likely she's not, but it could be a God miracle.
Right.
We don't know. We don't know. I wouldn't. It's just been 2 weeks. Remember, it's a foreign country. No telling what. You brought a great point up yesterday. Was it somebody else that snatched off the beach or whatever? So just let the investigators keep going, and eventually they're going to have to make a decision.
Right, Corey. Manuel, your thoughts. What's the likelihood she's still alive?
Well, I don't think it should be declared death, because you do that, then the investigation stops. The Dominican Republic government wants this to be labeled as accident by sea or drowning. They don't want it labeled as a murder or a death because it affects tourism. The fact that the family's asking him to label it a death, it means that now what's going to happen is this investigation is going to come to a halt. Okay, and that's going to hurt this case. And there's one other thing, Julie. You know, during all these videos we see of her and that guy walking, there's a video of him holding his video camera, filming them. Why hasn't any of the forensic analysis been done on his phone? I've heard not one news network comment on that. And you see him holding his cell phone recording. Forensic analysis has not been done on this. And how do I know? Because I contacted the family and I asked them myself.
Look at you, Manuel Gomez. Yes. Okay. Couple things. Back in the truck up, such a great point about the phone, wanting to see that phone. You both served in the NYPD and in the military. Thank you both for your service. You both would have had that cell phone dumped days ago, dumped the day that this guy was brought in for questioning. Corey, phone dump when he's taking these pictures, and we're talking about the last hours that this young woman was seen alive. How much insight can be gleaned from that kind of a dump?
Well, we always talk about the electronic footprint. So not being intimately involved in the investigation, dumping that phone is policing 101. Mm-hmm. So just for respect for the investigation, I'm not intimately involved, but it would behoove me to not believe that they didn't dump that phone. Remember, if it's stuff that's coming out, they don't put everything out.
Right.
So we don't know exactly. I know Manuel, and this is a great guy right here. He's one of the top investigators.
He
PIs
sure
out
is.
there.
You both
in New
are.
York City.
I'm just honored to have you both here. Wow.
I'm not pitting against him. I don't know.
Sure.
Because this is like, man, this is policing 101. That's
they should
one of
have
the
done
first
that.
things you did. So
right.
I don't know if they did, and if they didn't, it's really a travesty of justice.
Yeah, and these are Dominican police. We have to keep reminding ourselves this isn't happening in America. You know, not the NYPD working this one. Manuel, tell me, did the family know whether they even confiscated this kid's phone or if he willingly turned it over?
I asked, and they said that they were not told that they got the phone from him and no information was released to them regarding his phone. If you look right there in that video, you'll see him walking. There's the phone in his hand, and he's video recording her. He's video recording the last moments of the life. And let me tell you something. Every young person in this world goes nowhere without the phone. I don't care if you're going swimming. That phone is in your butt pocket, and they know that there's evidence there. Unfortunately, this is not the NYPD. It is a second world country, and they don't follow the same protocols. But that phone needs to be exploited, and according to the family, it has not been.
This is such great information you're giving us, Manuel. Tell me, did the family know anything about Sudiksha's phone? I'm so curious if her phone was recovered, where it was found, anything on that?
I asked the same question on that as well, and I got the same response. They had no feedback on it. And here's a family saying, declare it a death. How do we declare this a death? Because we haven't found her in 10 days? For all I know, she could have been abducted. Again, this is a second world country. There's a high threat over there for kidnapping. More than 1,500 people have been kidnapped since 2022 to 2024. I think it's still premature. They should wait at least another 2-3 weeks more before we declare it and investigation it's a death.
Manuel, I want to know when the family's bringing you down to the Dominican Republic to work this case. That's what I want to know. Wow, this is tremendous information you're sharing. I want to share something else about Joshua Uribe. So the guy who's a person of interest, they're being very clear not to call him a suspect at this point. He has filed a petition in a Dominican Republic court claiming that his rights have been violated by police, by prosecutors, by hotel staff where he's staying. There's going to be a hearing set for today on this. We know that from this video, he appears to be the last person with Sudiksha Konanki before she vanished. His passport has been confiscated. So what should the judge do today? Should the judge release him? What do you think here? Corey, what should they do?
Well, listen, he has a problem. Uribe has a problem because he's given 2 to 3 different versions of the story. So at this point, he's not very credible to the criminal justice system down in the Dominican Republic.
Right.
Now, he's trying to get out of there for obvious reasons. He wants his passport so he can get back home to America. But I think they have him kind of in a bind because of the inconsistent statements that he's been given to this investigation. So the way he could get out and come back to America is just come clean. Give us the real one-time concise story. And it could be, I don't really know what happened to her. You know, remember yesterday, sure. when investigators, Manuel and investigated, we keep throwing these questions, you actually start telling different versions of a story where you're lying, but you really didn't even do anything. So he needs to sit down, come clean, tell exactly what happened, because we need to get this family closure. And like Manuel said, the Dominican Republic is heavy tourism, so they want this thing to disappear, like Manuel says. So
oh, yeah. See. Manuel, what do you think? Should they hang on to him or let him go?
Well, Julie, you and I have both seen thousands of cases where people have been charged for a murder without a body. I think this guy should be charged and they should hold him and continue this investigation. That's my professional opinion. This is, again, the Dominican Republic. It's not the same laws as in the U.S., so it's a different different court, and different things happen there. I'm hoping they keep him and they, do what they need to do and get him to actually come clean. Because, again, the full forensic analysis of this case has not been done. And now it's been done on the ocean, but it hasn't been done on the land like it was done on the ocean.
Right. Boy, I wish they could bring you down there, Manuel, to interrogate him. He'd start singing real quick, I'm sure. Thank you so much for all this, Manuel. You're coming with us. Corey, great insight from you as well. You're going to be back in our 10 a.m. hour for Court TV Live, so we're going to be looking forward to that. My friends at home, don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're analyzing the 911 call the night those 4 beautiful University of Idaho students were murdered. We've got a psychology expert weighing in on why perhaps there was so much hesitation to call 911. And will Monica Sementilli testify? Her lover's back on the stand again today.
Eventually, did that become one of the reasons why you decided to murder him?
I murdered him because I wanted her.
It was made from the roommate's call, or phone, excuse me, and we're not going to divulge who made that call.
So they came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together.
Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I know I talk about myself a lot, but, like, what would you guys do in my situation?
And in the end, they died together.
Something happened in our house. That's what was said. And this morning, we're spotlighting the tragic 911 call that's been released in the Idaho student murders case. Let's take a listen together now.
911 location of your emergency. Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what. What is the address of the emergency? 1122. What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check. But we have to. She's passed out. What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20. Here's one.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing? Can you move?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Ooh, that is difficult to hear. And note that there's no mention of any blood. We know this was a horrific stabbing case. So many questions arising from just those few seconds on that 911 call. Now, if police believe the murders took place around 4 a.m., we wonder why wasn't the call made until almost noon? Could anything turned out differently if that call was made earlier? These are tough questions, and we're going to try to answer them this morning. And also the question of, why do people sometimes hesitate to call 911 in general? We shouldn't. Let's bring in private investigator and military veteran Manuel Gomez and licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Jamie Zuckerman. Good morning to you both. Let's start with the question of, could anything have turned out differently in terms of the investigation, the evidence gathering, the apprehension of the suspect? Manuel, let me go to you on this point, please.
Well, this is an investigative nightmare because, like you said, Julie, the murder happened at 4:50 a.m. They called 911 at 12. There's evidence showing that the individuals that called 911 were texting before they called 911. They were in the house disturbing the crime scene. Evidence was being destroyed. And the fact that those bodies were stabbed and blood was everywhere, and the girl can't even say it's a death, it's highly questionable. It's disturbing that here's college students and they're not intelligent enough to know that somebody's dead. Rigor mortis already set in between 2 to 4 hours. It was 8 hours. Those bodies were ice cold and dead. This is an investigative nightmare.
So well said, Manuel. It really is. It really is a nightmare on so many levels. And it makes me wonder, would a suspect been apprehended far sooner than we know the suspect, Brian Kohberger, was. I mean, it was just weeks of everyone on pins and needles. I can't help but think that that would have changed if the call would have been made sooner. Whether it would have changed the deaths, Kaylee Gonsalves' family doesn't think so. I wanted to show you both a statement they issued on the family Facebook page and draw your attention to the very last portion of it. It says, in closing, let us face the uncomfortable truth. Had the 911 call been made the moment the accused left that house, it would not have saved anyone. Nothing would have changed. And seems that is suggesting just the sheer brutality of this. We haven't seen the autopsy reports yet, but we know that the amount of blood in that house was ungodly after this event. So there is that. Let's talk about the hesitation. When we were thinking of this, why they waited till noon, it spawned a conversation in our newsroom, Dr. Jamie, about whether we hesitate when we call 911. And many of us were sharing personal stories, and some were saying, oh gosh, I hesitate every time because I don't want to bother the police. I feel like my problem isn't all that big of a deal, and maybe I should handle it another way. Why is it? Why do we as humans doubt ourselves and hesitate like that?
Yeah, so there's a ton of reasons why this actually happens, and it's very common. We may think that if we're in that situation that it wouldn't be us that would hesitate, but it is, like I said, quite common. So the first is shock and panic. When we go into fight or flight mode, when something happens, our brains don't necessarily process the event properly. We're not taking in the scene. We're not taking in what just happened. And so it causes significant confusion. The other is fear and intimidation. We don't know sometimes if something was said, threatened. If you call 911, I'll harm you, I'll harm your family. We see this a lot with domestic violence. Fear of becoming implicated. Sometimes people, even if they have nothing to do with it, they're very concerned that they'll become implicated in some manner. They may have a general mistrust in law enforcement, and just lack of awareness of the seriousness of the event or what they're witnessing, and maybe they're overreacting and they don't want to burden 911. They don't want to burden law enforcement.
Excellent insight you're sharing with us, Dr. Jamie. Tell me, as you hear the first couple of seconds of that 911 call, do you hear any of these things in the voice of the first caller when she's saying something happened in our house, we just don't know? What did you take away from it as you were listening? We're curious.
I definitely think it's odd. I think that it could be that it's just so just out of our ability to comprehend what happened. Also, maybe there was fear of being intoxicated underage. These are college students. They're not thinking clearly. So I think there's a couple things that came to mind for me for that. Who knows, again, if there was fear or intimidation. If you call 911, I'm going to harm you. I know where your family lives. There's a lot of things that could have been said.
Right, Dr. Jamie. We know that there were text messages exchanged between the two surviving housemates who were unharmed that night, and we were analyzing them just in recent weeks. So we know that during that 4 a.m. hour and afterward, there were calls, texts. There was fear. They were definitely terrified. One of them was saying, run to my room, and they noted the man with the mask and dressed in all black that was in the house. And I think it's so stunning for so many people to think that, okay, they knew that someone was in the house that didn't belong. Even if they didn't know that he did 4 murders, they knew somebody wasn't there, but there still is no inclination to call police. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on that, please, Dr. Jamie?
I think, when you're in a state of fear like that, you aren't always thinking rationally. And what may seem like such a simple call to call 911, a lot of times we deflect the responsibility onto those around us, especially in times like this. We hope that other people will take the lead. We don't want to be the ones in charge. We don't want to be the ones accountable. And it's kind of that deflection of responsibility.
Great points. Manuel, I want to go to you on the point about the hesitation as well when it comes to how calling quickly can help investigators. Would you speak to that, please?
Well, you're right. If they would have called immediately, you preserve the evidence at the crime scene. One, this crime scene has been tampered with because they were there for hours. Two, it has now strengthened the defense team's case to give any potential doubt to the jury that evidence was planted or destroyed. So they've actually hurt the case by not calling 911. This is something you all have to do, everyone out there. If something's happening, do not call your friend, call 911, stay on the operator and record, and make sure you call immediately because time is of the essence. I know one of the relatives said, I think it was a relative you quoted before, said something to the effect of, well, it wouldn't have made a difference. No, it does make a difference. It makes a difference in prosecuting this case, and evidence was not protected.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Manuel. Yeah, I am not a hesitator, you know, and maybe part of that, you know, at my age now at this time, you know, I was a prosecutor. I get how it can be so critical. So please, please don't hesitate. You're not bothering police. You could be saving lives and preserving evidence. This was such a great conversation. I know we need to let you both go. Manuel Gomez, Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, thank you both so much for your insight and your expertise. Coming up next here on Opening Statements, as the defense case is coming to a close in the celebrity hairstylist murder trial, we're asking, is Monica Cementilli going to take the stand?
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cementilli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cementilli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial, today, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now let's talk about what's tipping the scales in the celebrity hairstylist murder trial. The defense's star witness and Monica Cementilli's lover, Robert Baker, returns for more cross-examination today. This guy maintains that he and Chris Austin killed Monica's husband, Fabio, so that Baker could have Monica all to himself and that Monica was not in on their murder plan. The cross-examination did get a little heated when the prosecutor started asking Baker about his cell phone.
180 Viber messages on January 22nd, the day of the attempted hit.
Okay. We Viber all the time. We text, we chatted all the time.
You don't have your phone with you.
I said,
phone's at home.
I told you. I'm not sure. I told you this.
He also didn't remember how many cell phones he had at the time of the homicide, so there was that. But now, let's talk about, should Monica take the stand after this? So let's bring back in our legal eagles, Kevin Brackett and Dawn Malarsic. Okay, what should Miss Monica do here? Dawn, to you first, please.
No. You know, Julie, the decision to put a defendant on is a tough decision. But if you're putting a defendant on just to say, I didn't do it, I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze, quite frankly. Sometimes you have to, right? If you're going to argue an alibi, I wasn't there, here's where I was. If you're going to argue self-defense, yes, I did it, I had to do it. You have to put your client on. But simply to put your client on to say, I didn't do it, it's just too much of a risk. The deleted phone apps, the instructions on where to find the security cameras that she sent her lover, those are cross-examination points that would last for hours and it would be agonizing. So as a defense attorney, no, I would not put her on.
No, smart thinking, counselor. You know, and if you've got Kevin Brackett on the other side, he's chomping at the bit to do this cross and would destroy Monica. So, Kevin, tell me from the prosecution's perspective, are they like hoping and wishing and, but also, yeah, no?
Julie, my knees would be bloody from praying that they put her on the witness stand. Oh, please put her on the witness stand. I mean, they've got a pretty strong case, circumstantial, albeit, but it's really, there's a lot of things in there that need explaining. And, you know, she might be tempted to want to explain them. And that would be my hope as a prosecutor, because I really don't think that there is a good explanation, that she's going to be able to make a good explanation, and that in the course of trying to explain it, it's just going to get her deeper and deeper into the quicksand. You know, there's so many things. The statement in the back of the police car, you know, deny everything. The really sordid relationship that continued immediately after his death, sending pictures from the funeral of herself naked with a wedding ring on. There's so much to go over. It would take days and days to review it all, and it would just be brutal for her, you know, just give it an opportunity to highlight every bit of it. And there is no good explanation for that kind of evidence.
Yeah, great points, Kevin. I've got a clip for you both. This is Monica and her lover, Robert, talking on the phone about Fabio Cementilli's murder.
Hopefully the facts will speak for itself. So I'm very confident. They're saying I planned it. They're saying I planned it. I would never have. But I can't prolong that if I was planning it.
Would believe her? Dawn, what do you think?
Stop talking on the phone. They know these are recorded. What are they doing?
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing. No, I mean, it's just a weird conversation, these hushed tones. She's trying to be deceptive. This is another reason why you would never put her on the stand. I know it's difficult, and people are isolated when they're in prison and they need folks to talk to. But the number one thing I say to my clients is do not talk about the case to anyone on the phone. These calls are recorded. Why defendants, the accused, witnesses continue to talk on the phone is baffling to me.
Oh, I know, Don. They all think that no one's listening, and they'll lower their voice sometimes and whisper. And meanwhile, you know, people like Kevin and you know, I used to be this person, you know, have the headphones on in back in the prosecutor's office, listening to those jail calls, hoping for a little gold nugget. Kevin, yeah, you know, to Don's point, I mean, this is all just, I mean, such great material for the cross. At the end of all this, do you think that prosecutors are going to be able to prove this case? This has been a long one. We know out there in LA, they don't like to have court on certain days. And so the case kind of seems a little bit drawn out. Do you think they're going to be able to make it against Monica?
Yeah, you know, Julie, people always say, you know, the public at large thinks that circumstantial evidence is really, you know, oh, it's just a circumstantial case. It doesn't. Some of my strongest cases have been circumstantial cases. So to sort of dismiss circumstantial evidence as inconsequential and insufficient is really to give it short shrift, because it really can be powerful. And I think this case is an example of that. There is just too many circumstances. There are too many little issues that, when taken together, just paint a picture of absolute guilt. There's no other explanation for all of the behavior that she engaged in with him, all of the contacts that they had, the conversations in jail, the fact that they both deleted their Viber apps. And do you think they can get at this stuff? It's encrypted. I mean, it's too much. And she can't explain it if she testified. And if she doesn't testify, the jury's going to explain it. And they're going to find that the explanation is that she was involved in the murder of her husband and complicit.
Boy, I could talk to you both all morning. This has been a great conversation. We've got to leave it here for now until court resumes in this one this afternoon. And I know we've got to let you both get off to court. Boy, oh boy, thank you for your legal expertise and your insight, attorneys Kevin Brackett and Dawn Malarsik. We'll look forward to seeing you both back here very soon. And that is all for this episode of Opening Statements, friends. You can watch it, share it, tell your friends about it. We're here every morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, getting you all ready for Court TV Live. When we come back, Court TV Live begins in Massachusetts. Defendant Karen Reed has a motions hearing, her second homicide trial, where she's accused of murdering her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, is coming up at the beginning of April. So big decisions could be made today.